Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 103 of the show, and before we get started, we're gonna do the house cleaning because, well, duh, you guys always like the house cleaning. Like, I know we always joke about it, but it is nice to talk about it because it's nice. House cleaning is house cleaning. It's always nice to do it. Obviously, thank you guys for your love and support. We already hit over 1,450 downloads, so thank you very much for that. I greatly appreciate that, guys. Patreon backers, you guys continue to support me and continue to be awesome, so thank you for that. I will also say this, that I am working on something in the background. It's a little bit of a surprise, but I don't want to spoil it because it's a surprise, obviously. So I'm working on this little project in the background, and in time it will be revealed. It's been about a few weeks now, so I'll let you guys know once it happens, or it'll become very obvious once it's revealed. But until then, give me some time, continue to be patient with me. It's a surprise. So I'm not going to spoil it or give hints because that ruins the surprise. But aside from that, today's episode 103. And surprisingly, when I did the polls, it was interesting because I personally thought you guys were going to vote for the other topic. And surprisingly, you didn't. You guys voted for this one. So it caught me a bit off guard, but it is something I want to talk about because I've been watching more and more of this as time has gone up, or really as time has gone on, that I've been watching more videos about cameras, about videography, about cinematography, about photography, and you guys voted that I talk about camera advice today. And so I'm thinking, okay, we're talking about camera advice. Let's pull back a little bit and let's think of my experience. I'm a novice. I am an amateur, I'm not the most proficient when behind a camera or using a camera. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring some things out. I'm getting better at the basics as well. You guys are getting to see my basics at work. But like I said, it's interesting to talk about camera advice because as I've talked to more and more people about it, it's become very interesting, the topic. So I want to make this very clear for today's episode. We're not primarily going to be focusing on should you buy this camera? Should you buy this camera? What are the differences? Because I'm not a camera reviewer. I am not a professional photographer or cinematographer or videographer. I only do this as for fun, as a hobby. Granted, I would like to do more, more professional work. But I know that it makes more sense to just come from the perspective of an amateur and look from an outsider's perspective. Because if you realize, as you become more and more professional, you tend to lose a bit of objectivity sometimes. And I'll explain why. So obviously we're all well aware of what the console wars are, or PC versus console. We're all familiar with this style of, tribalism and this style of pushing a narrative, or trying to be subjective when we're really trying to be objective. It happens a lot. It happened, as I mentioned, it happens with PC versus console gaming. It happened with the console wars. Whichever version of the console wars you want to talk about, there's always this level of tribalism. And I've noticed, and it even happens with smartphones. It's always Android versus iOS, or this Android phone versus this Android phone. It's always this and this. It's always, two different things. And when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's actually kind of ridiculous because it's all good. They all work. They all meet somebody's needs and expectations. They may not meet yours, but they do the job for somebody else. And what's interesting and so fascinating, especially because at the time of this recording, Sony has released a new camera that's meant for vlogging pretty much just vlogging. They literally call it a vlogging camera. However, you look at the comments of videos talking about it, and I've shared my thoughts on it because it's only fair that I share my thoughts, but you notice the tribalism is there. You notice it. And obviously in this video, I'm also going to be sharing like this little picture that I found very useful. I'll probably be sharing it soon. I'll point to it once I finally do, or if I do, like it really just depends, But I mainly want to talk about the tribalism idea because it's so important, because it pops up so much. So in terms of camera manufacturers, we obviously have Canon, Sony, the ones that most people know. We also have Panasonic, we have Fuji, and I know there's more, and I know people are going to grill me, but I primarily want to focus on these four. These four are very important, to be honest. So let's talk about them. So obviously, Canon. Let's start with the first one, Canon. Everyone knows Canon. Canon is very well known. It's very popular. It's been around for a long period of time as well. Obviously, their cameras, a lot of people like Canon. You have the big flagship cameras, or I'd say photographer, prosumer level, like the Canon EOS R. You have the Canon EOS RP. And then you have the more under that, like the 90D, the 80D, the 70D, 60D, 5D. You have those cameras. And then you have like mine, which is the EOS M50 or EOS M50. And then you have the EOS M6 Mark II. And then we can start going from there. Obviously Sony, many people know Sony cameras. You have the A7 III, very popular camera right now. You also have the Sony, A9. You have the Sony's, the A series line with the A6000, it's A6000, A6100, 6200, 6300, 6400, 6500, and 6600. You have those cameras, and then you have Fuji cameras, which I'm not familiar with Fuji. I know Henny likes to shoot with Fuji. I know that. Like, if you guys Henny the business, Henny likes to shoot with Fujis. He does. And then you obviously have Panasonic. I know Juan likes shooting with Panasonic. And so we have those four camera brands. Each of those camera brands have lenses, which, duh. Obviously, these are cameras. They have interchangeable lenses. So with my camera, so let's start with mine, the Canon EOS M line. You have the EF-M line, or EF-M lenses. These are obviously a much newer lens that Canon has made in the past couple years. It's also the smallest out of all the Canon lenses because it doesn't have a large assortment of lenses. That doesn't mean they're bad lenses. That just means there's not so many. And it's led people to think, oh, this lens category is going to die. This mount's just dead. But no, not really, because there is good lenses in it. There is. And they're meant for compact portable cameras. That's what the M line is for. It's mirrorless. So it's meant for small compact cameras. And then obviously you have the typical EFS lenses. And then you have, for the R cameras, you have the R lenses, which are Canon's high grade lenses that are super expensive, but they are phenomenal lenses. They look amazing. And obviously Sony has a Sony E mount. I think Panasonic I know uses the micro thirds lens. And then I believe Fuji does the same thing as well. And what's interesting, now that we have that settled, like we have this settled discussion of like set these cameras, let's talk about what actually happens when you talk about these cameras. There's always been a big debate going on. There's always debates going on about cameras. If you should buy this camera over this camera, or what lens should you get? Is this, is it worth investing in this? And it becomes very, very unhealthy and very toxic at times. And I think that's not really helpful, in the grand scheme of things, to have that going on. Like, you expect that when you're talking about cameras, you want a objective perspective. You want, okay, if this meets your needs, then go for this camera. If this doesn't, go for this camera. And maybe you should invest in this because, et cetera, et cetera. And it becomes much more difficult, to say the least, When you think about it, camera lenses, or cameras in general, is just like talking about audio. It's just like talking about consoles. It's like talking about PC parts. It's all objective unless objectively something is crap. And trust me, we've seen what's considered objectively crap. We have. Like, objective crap is objective crap. Like, we're not gonna Pretend like this isn't, you know? And you notice it a lot. Like a lot of stuff is crap. But we can only say it's objectively crap if it's objectively crap. Subjectively crap, that's a whole different ballgame, because what's crap to you might not be crap to somebody else. And this is where I want to talk about that new Sony camera that came out, because it's very fascinating, because they advertise it as a vlogging camera. So basically like what I'm doing or starting out, or just, you know, Casey Neistat, like the good old fashioned, you know, camera right here, like you're on about, and it's crazy. And it's also $700. Actually, no, it's $800. My bad. I just remembered the number. It actually is 800, because I actually can see it right here on my phone right under me. It's $800, and that's not the cheapest, especially because it's all in one. You don't have removable lenses. Yes, it has a flip out screen, which that's what I like about my M50, is that I have that, because I can obviously, you know, look to the side. I can see, you know, if I'm still in focus or not, and etc., and control my camera. But what's interesting about this whole thing is you have cameras from other companies that make more logical sense for vlogging. You know, that's why the M50 exists. That's why the M6 Mark II exists. Granted, the M6 Mark II doesn't have some of the good features that the M50 has, but it is overall better camera overall. Now, this led to a lot of tribalism going on. Some people are like, oh, why would you buy this? Oh, like, why would you buy Canon over Sony? Ooh, like, this happens a ton, guys. Like, it's ridiculous, because I can provide many examples, and I can provide some personal examples. Personal example. When I first bought my camera, people looked at me, it's like, bro, you should have just invested in Sony. It was a better investment starting off. Overall, it's much better. You get much better stuff with Sony. You should have just bought Sony. And I was like, well, it's my decision. You know, like, I'll take your advice. I'll listen, but I'm not going to make my decision based off it. I'm going to listen to large, you know, not large, but a large amounts of input to generate my idea. Which direction do I want to go in? Because that's the benefit of being objective, is you're not just only listening to one source of information to create your decision. You go to other sources of information. You do your homework, you know, you do research. You don't just listen to what this person says about this and just be like, yeah, that's right. That's crazy talk, because that's how the real world doesn't function that way, guys. Like, the real world does their homework, does research, takes multiple inputs. Granted, nowadays, depending on the type of person you are, depending on your field, you don't tend to do that so much, but that's how things should be. That's the benefit of being objective, is you can look at multiple sources and you can generate your opinion from it. And in my case, instead of going for the A6400, which, yes, there are some benefits to it, like longer record times, say, you know, some people say better lenses, better image quality, but to me, I didn't see so much of a difference. I saw a camera that works, affordable in my budget, and I got a lot of benefits with it, which you guys have gotten to see. The Canon camera is doing really well for me, and you guys seem to like it as well. So I don't have any reason to complain. Like, I don't care about shooting in 4K. I just don't care about 4K. And if I want 4K, then I can just get the M6 Mark II. I can just upgrade. It's just a body upgrade. I don't have to upgrade lenses, because it's just the same lens, just with a different body. So I don't really have to care so much. And that's the benefit of investing in lenses too. And we're going to talk about that, because I know that's part of the camera advice, because I know it seems like I'm a little bit more all over the place, but you need to realize that this style of discussion from an amateur's perspective is much different if you're talking to a professional. It's a much, much different perspective. And that's why I do want to do a part 2 of this, for sure. I will be doing a part 2 with somebody who's a little bit more skilled, or people that are more skilled, to share their input and give their perspective. Because like I said, I'm only an amateur. I'm only giving you what I've noticed from my time so far and what I've learned so far. Because you guys get to see me improve and grow along the way, because, well, you know, camera, you guys get to see my face and you get to see how I improve. And obviously I post a lot of pictures on my social media anyways, so, you know, you get to see it firsthand. But as I mentioned with lenses, with my Canon, I bought my Canon because I was like, okay, I like the EFM mount. I know some people don't. I know people hate it. But in my perspective, I'm like, look, it's small, portable, compact, and the lenses that I would buy are the only ones that I would use. I don't need all these bigger lenses to do the job, because I don't. There's already good lenses here to do the job for me. And that's why I was like, okay, we're going with this. What's your plan of upgrade? And for me, it's very simple. The M6 Mark II. I know some people say, well, the EFM mount's dead, but I'm like, well, if it was dead, then Sigma wouldn't have made their trio lenses, and at the same time, the M6 Mark II shouldn't exist, but it does. So, and they're probably going to make an upgrade to the M50, because the M50 came out in 2018. So, and the M6 Mark II came out in 2019, so it makes sense that Canon's probably going to work on an M50 upgrade, especially because now Sony is starting to make their competition for vlogging. But let's talk about that, Sony cameras are really good. I know a lot of people swear by them. I know a lot of people say, if you're going to do video for YouTube, just get a Sony a6400 or 6600. That's all you need. I know a lot of people say that. It's natural. It's normal. People will say that. And granted, image quality and, the Sony color science versus the Canon color science, and then Fuji color science versus everyone's, and then Panasonic. Oh yeah, Nikon. We almost forgot about Nikon, which I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me for saying I forgot about Nikon, but I know one of you is going to do it, and I know who would do it. I didn't forget about it, bro. Well, I did, but you can't get mad at me. So we acknowledge Nikon exists. So there's 5 of them actually. So I know who's going to get mad at me for that, and I'm sorry. I know you're going to text me right after this, but yeah, I live up. I own up to that, but yes, so there's 5. Then we have Nikon, and yes, I know some people say Nikon for video isn't the best, but everyone has their own opinions. Nikon has been making some good cameras so far with the Z line right now, very popular cameras right now, obviously in direct competition with, Canon and Sony's lineup. So, and then Fuji, obviously Fuji is more known for, Fuji's more known for, I would say, cinematography. Like, that's what they're mostly known for. A lot of people that I know that would shoot with Fuji, that's usually how they refer to it, as either cinematography, and that's how they like it. That's them, but I don't agree with that. But like I said, it's all subjective. And then Panasonic, obviously people like Panasonic. Autofocus may not be the best, but and that's also something, like I said, you have to look at everything. You really do. Because when you think about the grand scheme of things, yes, this is all very, very, very subjective. I'm not going to pretend that this isn't. And I've already said this multiple times in this video. It's very subjective. But yes, picking a camera that's right for you is hard, because you have to do your homework. You have to research it. You have to look at, okay, do I like this? Am I comfortable with these compromises? Because we can go down a list of compromises. Obviously, yes, Sony is considered the best right now because of pushing all the good features that everybody wants. They have obviously good lenses, and obviously Canon, people get mad at Canon because they're like, look, they're not keeping up with the competition. They're not doing what is considered amazing. They're not. And I know that's, for some people, that kind of makes them mad, because they're like, I know a lot of people that shoot Canon that swear by Canon. I know a lot of people that shoot Sony and swear by Sony. I know people that swear by Panasonic. I'm looking at you, Juan. I know people that swear by Nikon. I know people that swear by Fuji's. You get what I'm saying, guys? This level of tribalism that's going on isn't really the healthiest, It's not healthy, because all it's doing is just like, it leads to toxic fan bases. You can look up all the big photography, cinematography, videography YouTube channels, look in those comment sections when they're comparing cameras, and it's a bloodbath. It is toxic AF, dude. Like, and I use it in that term because it's extremely toxic, and it's unhealthy because you don't really learn anything. Somebody who's going there for information, that wants someone's take, wants input to, add to their own homework, and then they see that and they're like, what the heck do I do? And it's hard sometimes, because it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't make things easier. It doesn't make life better for anybody, And that's just something that we have to be honest with ourselves sometimes, is we have to learn to be more objective at these discussions. Because think about it. I remember there was a quote somebody said that the best camera that you have is the one that you have on you. And that's very true. The best camera you have is the one you have on you. If you could master that, then you can move on to something else. It's always about mastering the tools that you have, because it's something that even in audio, they say the same thing. It doesn't matter if you have all the best gear. You can spend tens of thousands of dollars on an amazing studio. But if you don't know how to use it, it doesn't mean anything, you know? Like, same thing with PC gaming. Like, you could have the best hardware, but if you suck at the game, bro, it doesn't matter. You suck. Like, it does not matter. It matters on how well you have mastered what you have been given. What do you have in front of you? And do you know how to use it to its absolute best of the ability? Once you can do that, you can move on to something more powerful to suit your needs, to suit what you're able to do the job that you want it to do. It's funny because you look at, say, Jared Fronos. Jared posted I'd say it's like on his community tab on YouTube. He posted a picture that he took on his iPhone 11 and edited in Lightroom, and it looked amazing. But then you look at the comments and you see a lot of people just, extremely toxic, extremely unhealthy, like, ugh, why would you ever shoot with a smartphone? What is wrong with you? You have expensive cameras, use them. And you get what I mean? Is it ignores the point of, posting the picture is, hey, this may not be my forte. This may not be my first choice, but it is very capable to do some good shots. And you see the tribalism kick in. It's very toxic and unhealthy. And this becomes much more evident as you start to see more and more cameras come out, because then you start seeing people comparing spec sheets. You start seeing people say, oh, you can get this for this. And you start to notice it becomes very, very unhealthy. It becomes very toxic. And then there's nothing to gain. There's no benefit. There's no positive. There's just, what? That's all you get. And that's why I said, from my perspective, as a novice perspective, it's going to be much different compared to a professional's perspective, because a professional is already used to what they're using. They're already familiar with it. They know how to get the best looking shots out of it. But also, what I want to say this for people starting out or want to start out with, say, making YouTube videos or even get into photography, get into cinematography, it doesn't take talent. Talent doesn't make you, it just makes things easier. It doesn't make you better at it. It just makes things easier. Hard work can never be replaced. Experience can never be replaced. Practice makes perfect. There's a reason why people say that. Practice makes perfect. You get better at something the more you do it. Prime example. I got better at building computers when I started to build more of them. I got better at Rainbow Six because I played more of it. I got better at, taking photos because I started to get more practice in with the manual controls instead of just relying on full auto. You get what I'm saying? You get better as you practice it. Experience can never be replaced. There is no substitute for experience. Talent cannot substitute experience. You could pick up a camera the first day and take some of the most amazing photos in the world. That doesn't mean you're better than anybody. That just means you had it easier. You didn't have to work as hard. But that's why I say experience can never be replaced. You work at it. And like I said, in my opinion, and I make this very clear, this is my opinion. Yes, I do not believe it's easy to switch between cameras. I do believe that it makes more logical sense to stay with one camera brand because the switch becomes very expensive, especially because of how long you've been shooting with that, brand. Because you have to buy the lenses for it. You have to, I wouldn't say accessories matter so much because ND filters, those are universal depending if you have the same, lens ring and everything for it. Tripods, universal. Cages are a different story, but you get what I'm saying is stuff like that is universal. But lenses and what you invest in is very important. In my opinion, if you want to start off, I would say starting with the M50 isn't a bad idea. I will say that because I know a lot of people that would say, yes, if you want to start off, it's a very good camera to start off. If you are somebody who is more familiar with cameras, that you've already been doing a lot of work before. You've been working on, say your photography skills for a while now, and you want to get into videos, then I would say you could look at the Sony a6400 or 6600, depending on your budget. Budget is also another important thing. If you want to do more cinematography, you can go with Fuji, because a lot of people like Fuji, and give it a try. No one's saying that you can't do it on Canon or you can't do it on a Sony. You can do it on whatever. It's just, what do you like? What compromises are you able to live with, and do the benefits outweigh the drawbacks for you? You have to ask yourselves those questions, because that's the benefit of being objective, is you can take a step back and address everything, look at everything, and then make your decision. I decided to go with Canon. I plan on sticking with Canon, and that's my decision. You can make fun of me for it. That's okay. Like, I'm not going to make fun of you because you shoot Sony, you shoot Fuji, Nikon. I'm not going to do that. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that we can't ask for companies to, or push companies in a direction to improve where they're lacking, because that's what we should be doing. We're the consumers, after all. We're the ones buying this stuff. We should push them to do better. And there's nothing wrong with that, But I will say this, we really need to work on the tribalism, guys, because tribalism is everywhere. It can be applied to anything. It's not just in cameras, it's in audio gear, it's in console versus PC gaming, it's in PC parts, it's in PC manufacturers, it's in consoles. Like, it's everywhere. Like, anything you can think of, there's always going to be somebody that says, well, this is better than this because of this and this and this. And you get what I'm saying? It's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. That's why we need to work on it and strive to be more objective in these situations. The only thing that we can agree on is, if something is objectively crap, it's crap. Like, we're not going to pretend it isn't, because if it's objectively crap, it's objectively crap. If this thing doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, that's the only thing we can say. Aside from that, you have to learn to, be comfortable with what you're comfortable with. You have to be okay with what you're using and learn to master it, get the most out of it. Because then when you do that, you can do so much more, But I think that's all I really have for you guys for this one. I know it's more of camera advice. It was very scattered, but I mainly want to focus around the whole idea of this tribalism, because from a novice perspective, you notice it a lot more than a professional does. And in time, I do want to do another episode of this, but with a professional, like someone who's been doing this for much longer, and get their perspective. But I wanted to share with you from a novice perspective, from an amateur, so that you can see how I feel, how I'm viewing this entire situation and what I've been fascinated by. And obviously, in regards to the picture, I decided that I'm probably not going to post it in this one. I think that it just wouldn't make sense. I think it makes a little bit more sense to share it when we have the professional discussion, because then it makes more sense, But aside from that, thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really means a lot to me. You guys keep coming back and listening to these episodes and sharing them, and just continuing to be awesome. Like, you guys continue to surprise me every day. You really do. And it really means a lot to me, guys. Like, I hope you guys continue to be safe out there. Don't do anything dumb. Please be safe. And please take care of others around you, because these times are weird. We're weird right now. So be safe, guys. Please. But I love you guys to death. Please take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Well, I'll see you guys Friday, because we got another episode to do. But until then, bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.